Have you ever taken a moment to reflect on what truly matters as we grow older? Is it the wealth we've accumulated throughout our lives? Or is it the relationships we've built, the love we've shared, and the memories we've created? As we enter the later stages of life, many of us find ourselves wondering whether our lives have been fulfilling or whether we've made the most of our time. But what if I told you that the most valuable things in life aren't those we can buy, but the experiences, connections, and the wisdom we carry with us? In this video, we're going to delve into the true meaning of happiness in old age and uncover the essential secrets to living a fulfilling and peaceful life once retirement arrives. You'll discover powerful life lessons that can completely transform the way you approach aging. Together, we'll explore how to avoid the common pitfalls and mistakes that many seniors face, particularly those that prevent us from embracing life with joy. We'll also touch on the importance of emotional health, maintaining strong family connections, and how the choices we make today can dramatically impact our happiness tomorrow. So stick around until the end because we'll be sharing insightful stories and valuable lessons that will inspire you to reflect on your own life. Who knows, it might even change the way you approach the years ahead. Don't let regret or loneliness take away your peace. Join us as we explore how to embrace a future that is filled with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the important content we share. Your support truly means the world to me. And if you enjoyed this video, you can help us continue spreading these valuable lessons by liking and sharing it with your friends and family. If this topic resonates with you, please leave a 1 in the comments below. If you feel there's something more I can do to improve, just leave a 0 and I'll make sure to listen and make better videos for you. Now, let's get started. First, do not exercise excessively when hungry. Hello, everyone. One of the most important things for older adults to keep in mind each morning is to avoid overexerting themselves before having breakfast. After a long night of rest, our bodies need time to gently wake up and prepare for the day ahead. Jumping into intense physical activity without replenishing energy from food can have a negative effect on your health, especially as we age. When your stomach is still empty and your body hasn't had the chance to recharge, even seemingly simple tasks like gardening, walking, or doing household chores can spike your heart rate and blood pressure. Prolonged physical exertion without enough fuel can lead to serious issues, including the risk of a stroke. Early in the morning, the body produces higher levels of adrenaline to kickstart the nervous and cardiovascular systems. But if you don't have enough food in your system, that sudden spike in blood pressure can be dangerous, potentially putting too much strain on your blood vessels. So my advice is to take a few moments to relax and gently ease into the new day before engaging in any physical activity. A light, balanced breakfast, rich in healthy nutrients, will provide the energy you need to start your day safely. After eating, you can engage in light exercises like a relaxing walk or Tai Chi, perfect activities that help maintain your health and keep your heart in good shape, all without overexertion. Second, avoid standing up too quickly after waking up. Good morning, everyone. One of the most common habits we tend to have is rushing to get up as soon as we wake up, especially when the alarm clock rings. But for older adults, this can be risky for your health. After a long, restful sleep, our bodies are in a relaxed state, with a slower heart rate and lower blood pressure. When you wake up, your body needs a little time to adjust these vital signs before you're ready to start your day. Standing up too quickly before your body has had the chance to adjust can cause dizziness, lightheadedness, and a sense of imbalance, putting you at a higher risk of falls, which is a serious concern for older adults. The reflexes in both your nervous and cardiovascular systems may be slower, making it more difficult for your body to regulate blood pressure, which can lead to orthostatic hypotension, a condition where you experience a sudden drop in blood pressure when standing. On top of that, when you stand up abruptly, your joints and spine haven't had time to adapt to the change in posture, leading to muscle strain, back pain, or worse, a potential injury. So here's a simple but effective tip. After waking up, take 1 to 2 minutes to relax and allow your body to adjust to the new day. Then slowly sit up in bed and take 30 seconds to massage your arms and legs. This will help stimulate blood circulation. Next, gently place your feet on the floor and hold that position for another 30 seconds before standing up. This gradual process will allow your body to adapt, helping minimize dizziness and ensuring a smoother start to your day. Third, avoid straining too much when using the restroom. After a restful night of sleep, your body needs time to adjust and restore its functions. However, forcing yourself to strain too much during bathroom time can put unnecessary pressure on the chest and abdomen, which in turn reduces the blood flow to the heart and brain. As a result, your blood pressure can suddenly drop, leading to dizziness or, in more severe cases, fainting. For older adults, especially those whose cardiovascular systems have weakened over time, the risks associated with straining are even more concerning. This strain can increase the risk of serious conditions like heart attacks or strokes. Moreover, the intense pressure during this process can put additional strain on blood vessels, particularly in the brain and abdominal areas. If the pressure becomes too great, it can lead to ruptured blood vessels, causing potentially dangerous situations like a brain hemorrhage, stroke, or severe digestive issues. So, here's a crucial piece of advice. When using the restroom, make sure to maintain a relaxed and comfortable posture, avoiding unnecessary straining. Let your body function naturally without forcing it. If you're experiencing difficulty, consider improving your diet by adding more fiber and drinking enough water daily to support healthy digestion. Also, it's important to avoid bringing your phone or book into the restroom. Sitting for extended periods can place unnecessary pressure on your blood vessels. So, it's best to keep bathroom visits brief and to the point. Fourth, avoid sudden head turns. As we age, our blood vessels often become stiffer and the arteries lose their elasticity. Because of this, sudden movements, especially quick turns of the head, can compress the blood vessels in the neck, especially if the arteries are already narrowed. This sudden movement can cause a spike in pressure, which reduces blood flow through these vessels, potentially leading to serious health risks. In addition, the strong stimulation to the sympathetic nervous system caused by rapid movements can cause blood vessels to constrict, further slowing blood flow to the brain. This can lead to oxygen deprivation known as ischemia, which can result in dizziness, lightheadedness, or even falls. Quick head turns therefore pose a significant risk for older adults, particularly when standing or moving. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. So, if someone calls from behind rather than turning your head quickly, try to avoid this sudden movement. Instead, take a moment to turn your whole body slowly. This helps to reduce pressure on the neck and blood vessels, lowering the risk of dizziness or losing your balance. Even when you just want to look around, it's a good idea to rotate your shoulders first and then slowly turn your head. This small but important habit can help protect your health and prevent unnecessary accidents. Fifth, avoid standing on one leg when putting on pants. As we grow older, our bones naturally become more porous or brittle due to calcium deficiency and the gradual decline in bone density. Because of this, standing on one leg while putting on pants can pose a serious safety risk for older adults. When you stand on one leg, your body is more likely to lose balance, especially if the pants get caught or if you struggle to maintain a steady posture. Losing your balance can lead to falls. And as we age, the risk of bone fractures or bruising is much higher, particularly in more vulnerable areas like the pelvis, thighs, or lower legs. Even minor falls can have significant consequences, making it important to adopt safer habits. Instead of trying to balance on one leg, it's much safer for older adults to sit down in a chair or on the bed to put on pants. Sitting helps maintain stability, reducing the risk of losing balance and protecting the joints and bones. If you're in the bathroom and there's no chair available, try leaning against a wall for added support while putting on your pants. Many seniors have experienced serious accidents like fractured legs or pelvis because of this seemingly simple habit. It's a reminder of the importance of practicing safe routines and prioritizing balance. Therefore, instead of rushing or trying to do things too quickly, it's best to take your time and listen to your body. Perform tasks slowly, carefully, and mindfully. Starting your day calmly and properly not only helps protect your physical health, but also strengthens your mental well-being, ensuring a clear and healthy mind throughout the day. Remember, healthcare isn't just about the big decisions, but also about the small everyday habits that we may overlook. Even tiny changes when done consistently can have a profound impact on our overall well-being, helping us live a healthier and happier life each day. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and I wish you health, energy, and happiness in all that you do. When getting older, leave these four things for your children and grandchildren to ensure long-term family prosperity. As we grow older, preparing for the next generation is not only about passing on material wealth, but also about sharing intangible values, spiritual legacies that will help our families continue to thrive for years to come. Below are four essential things that older generations should leave behind for their children and grandchildren to make their families stronger, more enduring, and filled with love and wisdom. First, leave strong moral values. Morality has always been seen as a vital element in every family. It's the foundation that sustains stability, harmony, and long-term growth. The old saying, "Teach your children good morals," is more than just advice. It's a guiding principle that should be passed down through generations. A family that builds its foundation on strong moral values will be able to face and overcome life's many challenges. Morality isn't just about performing noble acts. It's reflected in every thought, word, and action, from honesty and kindness to respect and empathy in how we treat others. For older adults, maintaining and promoting these moral qualities isn't just a personal duty. It's a responsibility to their children and grandchildren. Older family members serve as role models, demonstrating values like honesty, compassion, and a commitment to contributing to their community. By imparting these important values, older generations ensure that the future will be shaped by generations that can face adversity with dignity and integrity. Second, leave the knowledge of how to earn money honestly. While leaving wealth to children and grandchildren is important, it's equally crucial to pass on the knowledge of how to earn money honestly and ethically. The old saying, "Teach a person to fish rather than give them fish," is not just advice. It's a deep life philosophy that highlights the importance of equipping the next generation with the tools to sustain themselves. If older generations simply leave money behind without teaching their children how to be financially independent, that wealth can quickly be wasted. However, by passing down lessons on how to earn income through honest labor, the next generation can not only preserve family wealth, but also build upon it, ensuring prosperity for the long run. Teaching children about the basics of work, how to manage finances, how to invest wisely, and most importantly, the value of hard work is the key to ensuring that the family's prosperity endures through generations. Third, leave behind a healthy body. Health is an invaluable personal asset, and it's a precious gift that older generations can give to their families. When seniors maintain good health, they not only get to enjoy life, but they also become a source of inspiration and emotional support for their children and grandchildren. A healthy grandparent can fully engage in family activities, share joy with loved ones, and offer invaluable wisdom and support, which creates a harmonious family environment. Good health can help seniors live longer, enabling them to spend quality time with their children and grandchildren. While age inevitably brings physical challenges, a healthy lifestyle, including a balanced diet, regular exercise, and regular medical checkups, can help minimize illness, maintain energy levels, and extend life. This lifestyle sets a great example for younger generations, teaching them how to prioritize their health and well-being from an early age. Fourth, leave behind the value of filial piety. In many cultures, filial piety is not just a virtue, but a profound value that strengthens family relationships. It embodies love and respect for parents and grandparents, ensuring that they are cared for with gratitude and compassion in their later years. However, filial piety isn't just about physical care. It encompasses respect, harmony, and maintaining positive, nurturing relationships with family members. The elderly, through their life experiences and wisdom, have the opportunity to teach younger generations about the importance of respecting, loving, and appreciating those who came before them. When a family is built on the foundation of filial piety, the bonds between family members become stronger and more harmonious. Children learn that filial piety isn't merely an obligation, but an essential part of fostering family unity, mutual respect, and love. Simple acts of care, such as visiting or expressing concern, help maintain close, loving connections between generations. The lessons of filial piety, respect, and love continue to pass down from generation to generation, creating a family that thrives not just in wealth, but also in moral and emotional growth. When these values are nurtured, they build a strong foundation for both individual and family well-being, ensuring that the legacy of love, respect, and unity lasts for generations to come. The quality of life in old age isn't the result of mere luck. It's the outcome of thoughtful decisions and careful planning beginning early in life. Just like a craftsman who sharpens his tools before starting a project, we must prepare for the important aspects of life: our health, finances, and family relationships, so that when the time comes, we can face the challenges of aging with resilience and peace of mind. Investing time in taking care of these foundational elements isn't just about preparing for challenges, it's also about showing respect for ourselves. When we make conscious efforts to plan, we're building the path to a future that's peaceful, joyful, and full of meaning. This preparation will help us overcome obstacles, both expected and unexpected, and create a stable foundation for a fulfilling and harmonious old age. The greatest tragedy in life is not the lack of wealth, but when after reaching the age of 70, a family still struggles with financial or emotional hardship with no way out. Life is a journey filled with challenges, each phase bringing its lessons to be learned and overcome. By the time we reach our later years, we come to realize that perfection is impossible, and uncertainty is an unavoidable part of life. Everyone yearns for a peaceful life, but as life constantly evolves, we must stay determined and keep pushing forward through adversity. So what is the real tragedy of old age? It is not about having a lack of money. Many people live simply and never achieve financial independence, yet still feel content and fulfilled. The true tragedy comes when, after passing the threshold of 70, a family continues to face hardships without any hope of resolution. The real tragedy is when, despite having worked hard for years, made sacrifices, and built a stable life for future generations, the elderly face three painful challenges within the family. First, health deteriorates to the point where they can no longer care for themselves. This is one of the greatest burdens the elderly must face. As we age, health becomes the most precious asset, one that we must cherish and protect. No matter how much wealth or status one has achieved in life, if the body becomes frail and dependent, lying in a hospital bed or relying on others for basic care, all material wealth becomes insignificant. Even if children show respect and filial piety, they may feel overwhelmed by the responsibility of caring for their elderly parents, especially when work, family pressures, and fatigue come into play. The inability to care for oneself and the need to depend on others brings both physical and emotional strain. This is why maintaining good health should be a priority in life, not wealth or power. The discipline to take care of our bodies, live moderately, and adopt healthy habits is the real treasure that will sustain us through our later years. Let go of harmful habits like smoking, excessive drinking, or staying up late to safeguard your health. Every moment of life is precious, and how we care for ourselves shows the ultimate respect and love for our well-being. Because in old age, there's nothing more valuable than the freedom to care for oneself and enjoy life's simple pleasures, such as eating nourishing food, sleeping soundly, and living independently. These small joys cannot be bought with material possessions. True contentment in our later years comes from the ability to live a peaceful, independent life, free from the constant burdens of dependency. One of the greatest challenges for the elderly is when their children's marriages face difficulties, forcing grandparents to step in and take on the responsibility of caring for their grandchildren. In today's rapidly changing world, traditional views about marriage are evolving, and many younger people no longer hold on to the same values as past generations. An unhappy marriage can often lead to separation, especially when there are no children involved. However, when children are born into the marriage, the breakup of a family can lead to much more severe consequences. Not only does the child lose one parent, but they also suffer emotional and psychological setbacks that can affect them for years to come. When children encounter marital struggles, grandparents who should ideally be enjoying their later years are often left to bear the responsibility of raising their grandchildren. This not only diminishes their quality of life, but can also create a sense of helplessness as they find themselves forced to pick up the pieces of their children's decisions. Instead of relaxing or traveling, grandparents may feel as though they're carrying an additional emotional and physical burden that they never expected. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, Please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The stress of caring for grandchildren while their children are busy with work or dealing with their life pressures can be exhausting. While the love for family remains strong, the pressure to step in can become overwhelming, often robbing the elderly of much-needed rest and personal time. The greatest desire of older adults is to live in a peaceful family environment where harmony and stability reign. When their children's marriages are strong and happy, grandparents can enjoy their later years without the constant worry of stepping in to care for grandchildren. However, when their children's marriages are in trouble, the whole family ends up carrying a heavy load. This emotional strain not only affects the parents, but directly impacts the elderly, making their later years more challenging and full of stress. Secondly, one of the deepest pains the elderly face is the lack of filial piety from their children. Every parent dedicates their time, effort, and love to raising their children, hoping they will grow up, build stable careers, and most importantly, appreciate the sacrifices their parents made for them. Unfortunately, this is not always the reality. Many parents experience heartbreak when they see their children, who were once nurtured and cared for, becoming indifferent and inconsiderate as adults. Even more painful, some children after getting married begin to distance themselves, treating their parents as burdens rather than showing them the respect they deserve. One real-life story that highlights this painful reality is that of a mother who sacrificed everything to ensure her son received the best education. She saved every penny to send him to school, and eventually bought him a house when he became a doctor. However, after he married, things changed. Her son asked her to move to the city to help care for his children. Instead of being honored and respected, she found herself working tirelessly without the appreciation she had earned. She was no longer seen as a cherished family member, but as someone to be used, and her contributions were met with reproach. The home she had worked so hard to build felt foreign to her, and she realized that she had become a stranger in her own house. The value of sincerity can easily be lost, turning the later years into bitter, regret-filled days. Today I want to share the story of my younger brother, someone who has built his life around borrowing money, especially from family and friends. People like him often share a common trait. They don't often reach out unless they need something. When the need arises, they have a way of appearing, making subtle and persuasive requests to borrow money. He knows exactly how to use kind, moving words to make others feel like they must help. But once he has the money, he disappears without a trace, with no intention of repaying it. My younger brother, the youngest child in the family and the only son, was spoiled from a very young age, which led him to develop a habit of relying on others and avoiding responsibility. As an adult, he didn't change. He only became worse. He often found ways to borrow money from everyone around him, whether from neighbors, friends, or even distant relatives. He knows just how to make people feel obligated to help him. But once the money is in his hands, he quickly vanishes, leaving only disappointment and anger in his wake. He works as a laborer in a factory. But unlike his colleagues, he never works as hard as the others. He often stays up late, wakes up late, and makes excuses to take extra time off just so he can sleep a few more hours. His favorite saying is, "Live comfortably. Don't make life hard on yourself." Despite his lack of hard work, his family enjoys a comfortable, abundant life. His house is always full of lavish parties, and in the spring, it is overflowing with sweet cherries. In the summer, the fridge is always stocked with cold drinks. And in the autumn, he indulges in crabs from morning till night without ever tiring of them. In winter, the house is alive with BBQs and hot pot feasts. And at night, it's filled with the aroma of grilled foods. The atmosphere in his home is always lively and comfortable. And yet, he doesn't worry about money or work. What's truly surprising is that even though he lives an extravagant lifestyle, spending far beyond his means, he is rarely ever refused when he needs money. He has a special ability to make others feel like they can't say no when he asks for help. The saying, "What is real can move mountains," has become his life philosophy, and he's learned how to use this generosity to convince others to open up their wallets and help him without question. There was one particular time when I felt my health was declining and realized I needed to lose weight. But the problem was I didn't have any money, and everyone I knew had already borne the burden of my past borrowings. With no other option, I thought of a colleague at work, someone with whom I had major conflicts in the past, to the point that we couldn't even greet each other properly. One weekend morning, I decided to take a basket of premium fruit to his house. With a few clever words and compliments, I managed to rebuild the relationship that had once been strained. After a short conversation, I left with a cheerful smile on my face. And more importantly, I had borrowed money. Not only that, but I had turned an enemy into a friend in an instant, even managing to borrow money from someone I had previously disliked. The next day, I quickly signed up for a membership at a prestigious gym, a membership costing tens of thousands of dollars. Money I didn't have. It was a shock because, despite being in such a financial bind, I had managed to borrow money from someone I had once had a conflict with. His ability to make that happen was truly impressive. Another time I visited my father, and there was noticeable tension between him and my brother due to my father's cold attitude. But my brother, not sensing the unease, continued with his usual demeanor, approaching my father with concern. He said, "Brother, I heard your leg is hurting. I bought some warm patches from the pharmacy. Try them out. They might help." He gently rolled up my father's pants and applied the warm patch to the painful spot on his leg. The simple gesture helped ease my father's discomfort, and the atmosphere in the room relaxed as a result. After tending to my father, my brother quickly shifted gears, turning to my mother with a concerned expression. "Sis, things are tight this month. I still need to pay for the house, the car, and some other bills. Can you lend me a little? I'll pay you back as soon as I can." Upon hearing this, my father's face visibly changed. His irritation was clear, but he remained silent, likely holding back his frustration. My mother, ever the calm one, immediately replied, "Where am I supposed to get money to lend you? Our child is about to start college, and I still need to pay for tuition." She added, "You need to work harder and stop spending recklessly." My brother just smiled, seemingly unfazed by her response. "I understand. Don't worry, I'll try to follow your advice next month," he said before continuing. "But there are still a few days left before school starts. Can you lend me a little? I'll pay you back next month." At this point, my father couldn't hold back his frustration any longer. "When is he going to pay us back?" he asked, clearly annoyed. "Don't let our child's education be affected." Despite his unhappiness, my mother reluctantly handed him the money, but not before reminding him, "You need to pay it back, okay?" My brother quickly accepted the money with a cheerful, "Thanks, I'll pay you back," and left in a hurry. Once he was gone, my father couldn't hold back anymore. "You gave him money again," he grumbled. "We don't have that much to keep lending him." My mother, slightly irritated, replied, "When he needs help, why don't you say something? He's already gone, and now you're complaining." My father sat in silence for a while before letting out a sigh. "He borrows money but never pays it back. Last time he made promises and didn't follow through. He's clever, but when he borrows from you, he never returns it. My brother is indeed very clever. His strategy for borrowing money is subtle but effective. He understands that to get help, he first needs to create a sense of care and respect." The act of helping my father with the warm patch wasn't just a friendly gesture. It was a carefully planned move designed to make my father feel obligated to lend him money. After I graduated from college, I started living independently with my first job. Although my salary was modest, I was proud of myself for saving $200 in just 3 months. That money felt like a big achievement to me, and I decided to reward myself by buying a new phone. One weekend, my brother called and invited me over to his house for a seafood feast. Excited to catch up, I agreed without hesitation. At his house, we sat down to enjoy a delicious spread of seafood. My brother, always the thoughtful one, peeled the lobster for me as we chatted. He asked about my work, and I told him it had been a bit tiring, but that I was starting to stabilize and even save a little. I proudly shared that I had saved $200. My brother was surprised and impressed. "Wow, you've saved more than I have." I felt proud of my small accomplishment. After finishing his meal, he wiped his hands and looked at me with a knowing smile. "Would you like to earn an extra $50? You can give it to me to hold for a couple of weeks and I'll return $250. Trusting him, I didn't hesitate and transferred the money to him. He smiled contentedly and said, "I knew you wouldn't let me down." Half a month later, I received the $250 from my brother, and it made me very happy. I went home and eagerly shared the news with my mother, expecting her to be just as pleased. However, her reaction wasn't what I anticipated. Instead of expressing joy, she said, "You should stay away from him for a while. Don't let him drag you into these things. Your brother is clever, but now he's borrowing money from the next generation." I was taken aback by her words, but he paid me back, I said, trying to justify the situation. My mother sighed deeply, her eyes filled with concern. "You don't understand," she replied. "He's been using this trick for years. At first, he always paid people back with more, so they trusted him. But once he built that trust, he started taking advantage of it, borrowing more and more. It's hard for anyone to say no to him. I had no choice but to help him out, but I don't want you to get caught in this cycle." It was then that I realized something that had been clear all along, but I hadn't fully understood. My brother wasn't a bad person, but his way of living had become a burden on others. For over 20 years, he had relied on borrowing money to maintain what appeared to be a prosperous life. He owned a car, a house, and enjoyed good food and nice clothes. He worked without much concern for the future, living a seemingly carefree life. But I now saw that such a lifestyle couldn't last forever. He could borrow money from others with ease, but he couldn't escape the anxiety and responsibilities that come with living that way. No matter how clever he was, that cycle couldn't go on forever without consequences. Eventually, the weight of the debt would catch up with him. In life, everyone faces challenges and difficulties, but what truly matters is maintaining faith in oneself and staying on the right path, even when it seems impossible. If we live honestly and virtuously, our hearts remain at peace regardless of external circumstances. However, many of us turn to fortune tellers or those who claim to have the ability to see the future, hoping that their predictions will offer us a sense of reassurance. We often believe that knowing our fate in advance will allow us to change course and seize better opportunities. But what we need to understand is that while fate may offer certain directions, our true destiny is determined by the choices we make. In 2004, I had the opportunity to meet a well-known fortune teller. After our first meeting, I was surprised when he reached out to me again, a rare move for him. I couldn't help but wonder why he had sought me out a second time. "I have something to tell you," he said cautiously. "I didn't want to say it, but I see that you are still young and your fate is unfortunate. I can't keep this from you." "What do you mean by unfortunate?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. He sighed, his face full of concern. "I've looked into your future and I see that you won't live past 25, especially this coming August. You will face a big accident." His words shocked me, leaving me confused and shaken. I wondered if my impulsive nature and rash decisions had led me down a path that would bring such a grim fate. I spent many sleepless nights pondering this, questioning whether my actions had already sealed my future. However, over time, I gradually stopped focusing on his predictions. What was even more surprising, though, was that not long after, the fortune teller reached out again. This time, he invited 6 of his colleagues to examine my fate, and they all gave the same assessment. They added, "This person is truly unlucky. His marriage will be difficult, and having children will be hard." At the time, my family had already begun planning for my marriage, and a woman had been arranged for me. But after hearing the fortune teller's words, I couldn't shake the anxiety and uncertainty that gripped me. Could this be my fate? Was marriage no longer something I should pursue? I decided to wait until after August to make any decisions, hoping that whatever was supposed to happen would unfold. During that period, I cut off all contact with my family, changed my phone number, and lived a secluded life. I avoided everyone, consumed by thoughts and worries about the future. I took a long break from work, and my boss, noticing my withdrawal, gently asked, "Is everything okay?" I replied weakly, "I'm not feeling well." Understanding my situation, he gave me time off. During those days, a kind colleague would bring me food so I wouldn't have to leave the house. I spent my time reflecting on life, destiny, and whether everything had already been preordained. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized we are the ones who shape our fate. The old saying, "A kind person lives long," made me reflect deeply on my own life. If my fate truly was to be short, maybe it was because I hadn't lived with enough kindness. I decided then and there to change. It all began with my mindset. They say that when the heart becomes good, positive energy flourishes. If your heart is full of negativity and malice, then that will shape your life. I realized that if I embraced a virtuous life, good fortune would follow. On the other hand, if I continued to think and act out of selfishness and bitterness, I'd only invite misfortune. I had always blamed my parents for everything, my struggles, my unhappiness, and the circumstances I was in. But from that moment, I vowed to change. I would live with honor, love, and respect for my parents, honoring my family's traditions and values. I realized that filial piety and respect were the foundation of life, and that was what would bring me peace and fulfillment. I even began preparing a will to divide my assets among my parents and siblings, wanting everything to be clear and settled to ensure no conflicts in the future. In the months that followed, I found myself living in a state of intense anxiety. A heavy burden seemed to weigh on me, and I was too afraid to go outside. I lived this way for nearly 3 months, counting the days in fear and anticipation. On the final day of August, I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped outside, and as I crossed the street, I saw the light was red. But in my panicked state, I rushed across the road anyway. Just a split second later, a car screeched to a halt, right in front of me, its tires locking in place just inches from my body. The driver, furious, shouted, "Are you crazy? Didn't you see the red light?" If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. His harsh words were like a bucket of cold water splashed onto my face, instantly snapping me back to reality. My heart raced as I stood frozen, my forehead covered in sweat. In that moment, I realized how close I had come to losing everything. Just a single moment of carelessness could have cost me my life. And suddenly, I couldn't help but think of the fortune teller's words. What had once seemed like vague predictions were now starting to come to life before my eyes. After that incident, I felt a profound shift inside me. A new sense of life force seemed to fill me. It felt like I had been given a second chance. And strangely, I even began to gain weight, something I thought would never happen. Gradually, I began to understand a crucial lesson about changing my fate, the importance of being open-hearted and accepting the good things that life offers. To have a happy, fulfilling life, I needed to learn how to truly cherish and love my wife and children. Over the next few years, I dedicated myself to courses on moral development and self-cultivation. I realized that much of what I was learning mirrored the teachings of wise philosophers from across history. They often spoke about the link between personal growth, the relationship with the divine, and the influence of our thoughts on our destiny. Through this, I came to understand that suffering doesn't come from lack. It comes from resistance to the natural flow of life and reality. So often in life, we struggle against ourselves, our families, and others around us, creating unnecessary conflicts. But when we stop fighting and begin to cooperate, share, and help each other, everything becomes easier. Sadly, in today's fast-paced world, the power of unity is often forgotten, replaced instead by endless competition and conflict. Family disputes, marital struggles, and sibling rivalries drain our energy and weaken the fabric of the family unit. After that incident, I felt like I had been reborn. I decided to reconnect with my family, and my mother, with a joyful heart, informed me that someone had arranged a marriage for me with a woman. I remembered the fortune teller's words about how I would never have children, and a wave of anxiety swept over me. Could my fate have changed? Would my marriage and future truly be different from what he predicted? After some thought, I realized that I couldn't live my life in fear of predictions anymore. I decided not to hesitate any longer. I agreed to the marriage, hopeful and ready to embrace whatever came next. In my short life, I came to understand that finding a life partner is one of the most precious gifts. We married in 2005, and soon after we were blessed with the birth of our first child. The changes within me were nothing short of astonishing. I remember with some amusement when I shared the news that I was still alive and had become a father. The fortune teller from years ago couldn't believe it. "You should have had an accident by now," he said, astonished. "How are you still alive?" I simply responded, "I stayed in the shadows, not daring to go out." He nodded slowly as if processing my answer. "Your way of avoiding danger is very unique." However, I was still apprehensive. I feared that he might continue with his gloomy predictions, which always left me uneasy. At that moment, though, I hadn't completely shaken off the disbelief I felt regarding his earlier prophecies. One day, I decided to invite him over to visit. To protect my family, I hid all the baby items and I asked my wife to take our child to a relative's house. I wasn't sure what he would say, but I wanted to see how he would react now. When the fortune teller entered, he was visibly shocked. "It's strange. Not only are you still alive, but you also have a child." "You weren't supposed to have children," he remarked, his tone filled with disbelief. His words struck me with both surprise and humor. The fortune teller stared at me intently and said, "Your energy has changed significantly. Before I could feel misfortune just by looking at you, but now you look healthy, vibrant, full of life. You've truly changed your fate." In that moment, I couldn't help but admire him. His reputation as a perceptive and insightful person was truly deserved. From my own experience, I had learned 3 valuable lessons. First, filial piety towards parents can change one's fate. Second, harmony within the family enhances life and well-being. And third, strong positive relationships with siblings lead to prosperity and good fortune. These 3 principles guided my life, and remarkably, things had been much smoother in the years following. I helped my sister buy a house. My business was flourishing. And most importantly, I felt a profound shift in my health and spirit. At 30, I was blessed with a healthy son, and I was living a completely different life than I had been before. When the fortune teller had predicted that disaster would strike me, many had been shocked and worried for my future. Yet instead of allowing fear to dictate my life, I began to reflect deeply on my actions. I asked myself, was I unknowingly going against my values or conscience? As the ancient wisdom goes, heaven's net is vast but sparse, yet nothing escapes it. This taught me that if we live honestly with kindness and good intentions, we need not fear the future. By living with integrity, we guide ourselves in the right direction, and I truly believe that good deeds lead us to peace and fulfillment. As I reflected, I realized that old age isn't measured by wealth alone. Even someone with billions of dollars can live a lonely, regrettable life if they haven't cultivated meaningful relationships. Old age ideally should be a time to enjoy the fruits of our labor, to find peace and joy in the later years of life. However, many people mistakenly believe that accumulating wealth is the path to happiness. While money can relieve material concerns, it cannot guarantee the emotional well-being that we need as we grow older. Happiness in old age relies not only on financial security, but also on mental health, family, relationships, and emotional fulfillment. I've seen many people with substantial savings who are still lonely and sorrowful in their old age. This realization leads me to the story of Uncle Charles, a 72-year-old man who serves as a reminder of how neglecting these aspects of life can lead to dissatisfaction, even when one is materially wealthy. Although Uncle Charles had assets worth over $1 million and a sizable pension, he lived in profound loneliness. His spacious home, complete with pets, servants, and beautiful gardens, was filled with every material comfort imaginable. Yet during the holidays, while other families gathered together, Uncle Charles's house remained empty, devoid of joy and the laughter of grandchildren. Many people envied his wealth and luxury, but in truth, despite his material abundance, Uncle Charles felt the sting of regret and isolation. He realized that his 3 biggest mistakes from his younger years had led him to this unhappy point. The first mistake was failing to build and nurture his family's happiness. In his younger days, Uncle Charles was a successful and ambitious businessman. His focus was solely on accumulating wealth, and as a result, he neglected his family. He quickly rose to success, attracting several women, including his wife, Aunt Marie, who married him when she was 22. Their early years were filled with happiness. But as Uncle Charles devoted all his time to his career, Aunt Marie grew increasingly lonely. Though he could provide her with all the material comforts, he didn't make time for her emotionally. When they had 2 children, a son and a daughter, their relationship began to deteriorate. They no longer shared a bed. And Uncle Charles considered his duty fulfilled simply by earning money. He neglected the emotional side of marriage, which was just as important as the financial stability he provided. As their family grew, so did the distance between him and his wife. Some people believe that women cannot ask for both love and money from their husbands, and that to find happiness, they must choose between the two. This was the difficult realization that Aunt Marie, Uncle Charles's wife, came to. She married him for his wealth, but soon discovered that life isn't just about material possessions. Uncle Charles was someone who placed all his focus on accumulating money and achieving business success. He ignored the emotional needs of his wife, treating her with coldness and detachment. While Aunt Marie managed the household, took care of everything at home, and even looked after his elderly parents. Uncle Charles showed no interest or gratitude. A wife as devoted as Aunt Marie should have been cherished and adored. But Uncle Charles was only concerned with his work and the money he earned. Even when Aunt Marie fell ill, Uncle Charles remained unbothered, believing that providing financially was sufficient to fulfill his role as a husband. He refused to offer help when she needed it most, even accusing her of faking her illness to get attention. His belief that he was fulfilling his duties simply by earning money led him to neglect the emotional and physical needs of his wife. As he accumulated more wealth and gained more power, he became even more self-indulgent, often going out to socialize and leaving the burden of household responsibilities solely on Aunt Marie's shoulders. She endured this for 18 years, but eventually her patience wore thin. Aunt Marie decided to divorce Uncle Charles, taking their daughter with her and leaving their son behind with him. Even then, Uncle Charles failed to understand what had gone wrong. He continued to believe that his wealth and status would easily attract another woman. After all, he thought, what woman wouldn't want to marry a rich man like him? But Uncle Charles's second mistake was neglecting his health. After Aunt Marie left, he continued living in his spacious, comfortable home, surrounded by wealth and material possessions. But his health deteriorated. Despite his wealth, he lacked what truly mattered: love, care, and meaningful relationships. He didn't care for his well-being, believing that as long as he had money, he could buy his way out of any health issue. He lived his life freely, indulging in parties, drinking, and karaoke every day, never thinking about the consequences of his actions. His son, noticing his father's deteriorating health, advised him to take better care of himself. But Uncle Charles was indifferent, brushing off his son's concerns. He thought, I've worked hard for my money. Now that I have it, I can live however I want without worrying about anything. Even if I get sick, I'll just pay for medical treatment. What do I have to fear? The more his son advised him, the more Uncle Charles resented it. Eventually, he decided to buy a row of rental rooms for his son to live in, forcing him to move out so he wouldn't have to hear his son's constant reminders. However, when Uncle Charles turned 48, he was diagnosed with diabetes. Initially, the condition was manageable with medication, but Uncle Charles continued to ignore his health, maintaining his unhealthy lifestyle. Over the next 5 years, his condition worsened and he went from taking medication to requiring insulin injections. Yet the disease still wasn't under control. At 55, he had no choice but to retire early and focus on his health. Uncle Charles's third mistake was not taking proper care of his children. Even though the love was still there, the bond between them had weakened over time. After his retirement, he lived alone in his large home, while his children had all started their own families and became independent. Though Uncle Charles rarely made an effort to reach out to them, his children still honored their duty to care for him. His son, who lived nearby, visited him every week, bringing his wife and children along. Each time, the son not only made sure his father had everything he needed, but also took the time to clean the house, cook, and care for him, ensuring he had his meals. Even though his eldest daughter lived far away, she never forgot about her father. She sent him local specialties from her area and made sure to visit him during the holidays. Though Uncle Charles was proud of his wealth, he could no longer ignore the fact that the emotional bonds with his children were what truly mattered. The relationships that had once been strained were now the most valuable thing he had left. Uncle Charles's cold and selfish attitude towards his children eventually led to strained relationships. One notable incident was when his son asked to borrow a significant amount of money, $800, to move and help his child settle into school. Despite having more than enough money, Uncle Charles refused, claiming that the money was meant to be saved for the future and could not be lent out. He also expressed the belief that his son, as a young man, should be able to earn the money on his own and didn't need financial assistance. This response angered his son deeply, leaving him feeling that his father's sacrifices for the family had gone unappreciated. From that moment on, the son began to feel increasingly distant from his father, and over time stopped maintaining contact. The situation was no better with his daughter. When she needed money to help take care of her sick mother-in-law, Uncle Charles rejected her request, coldly stating that since she no longer lived with her ex-husband, she was no longer truly part of the family. This rejection wounded his daughter deeply, and the bond between them began to dissolve. The daughter, feeling abandoned by her father, lost her sense of filial duty. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment for below to let me know that you are still here with me. As his children drifted away, Uncle Charles failed to recognize his role in the separation. Instead, he stubbornly continued to believe that money was the most important thing. In his eyes, his children only cared about his wealth, and as long as he had money, he didn't feel sadness or loneliness. His wealth, he believed, was more important than family relationships. But over time, Uncle Charles's health continued to deteriorate. His diabetes worsened, his legs became swollen, and soon he was unable to walk without assistance. Instead of reaching out to his children for support, Uncle Charles chose to hire caregivers, hoping that money could provide the care he needed. What Uncle Charles didn't realize, however, was that no amount of money could replace the love and care that only a family could provide. The first caregiver followed instructions diligently, but over time the others showed little concern or dedication. Eventually, Uncle Charles found himself in the uncomfortable position of calling his son for help. But when his son responded, Uncle Charles was met with a cold reply. "You have plenty of money, so why do you need my help? I'm struggling just to get by." This response from his son left Uncle Charles feeling even lonelier and more helpless. He realized too late that no matter how much money he had, without love and family support, old age was a burden he could no longer bear. The story of Ted. This is another poignant tale that reveals the deep sorrow of life's disappointments. She vividly remembered the day her mother, 3 months pregnant, brought her to her husband's house, hoping to be accepted. But his family only mocked her, accusing her of using her pregnancy to trap him into marriage. Her mother, desperate and broken, begged them to accept her, but they refused. Left in shame, the mother and daughter departed, heartbroken. During this time, the man who had once claimed to love her remained silent, offering no defense while his family scorned her. This silence and abandonment filled her with a deep sorrow and resentment that never faded. In that moment, she vowed never to return to his family, no matter the hardships she would face alone. At just 20 years old, she found herself a mother, bearing all the responsibilities alone. Her dreams of further education were shattered, and her hopes for a better future seemed gone. Her husband, the one she had once loved, continued to live under the overprotective wing of his wealthy family, never having to worry about finances, thanks to his family's prosperous gold shop. Instead of maturing and assuming responsibility, he spent his days indulging in pleasures and reckless spending. All the weight of responsibility fell on her shoulders, while his mother blamed her for his shortcomings. Though it was he who chose this path, she realized quickly that she couldn't rely on him. As her daughter grew, she became increasingly concerned about her child's future. She decided to send her daughter to daycare and found a part-time job, trying her best to make ends meet. But everything changed when Ted arrived. Her husband, out enjoying himself with friends, was involved in a tragic car accident and passed away. The news came so suddenly, and she didn't know how to react. Although their love had long faded, the thought of her daughter growing up without a father still broke her heart. The Tet Festival, which should have been a time of joy and family togetherness, passed in silence, filled only with sorrow. Despite no longer holding any affection for him, she couldn't ignore the fact that her child would now grow up without a father figure. Months passed, and one day her mother came to visit. Holding her granddaughter in her arms, she cried uncontrollably. Her grief over the loss of her son weighed heavily on her heart. And though she understood the pain of loss, she knew that she couldn't continue to be consumed by the past. 4 years. She had refused her mother's financial help, not because she was poor, but because she feared that money would make her forget her dignity. When her father-in-law came to embrace his granddaughter and suggested that she bring her daughter to live with them, she couldn't remain silent. She responded candidly, "You can visit her, but don't try to buy her with money. I've already endured too much humiliation." His face turned pale, and after that he never returned. Soon after, news came that he had suffered a stroke, and her mother advised her not to be too stubborn. "They've already suffered so much," she said. In their final years, her in-laws lived in loneliness with no one to care for them. As she looked at her late husband's memorial, her heart ached. Her mother said, "You may still be angry, but you should consider their situation. They're still family. Loneliness and old age are the greatest fears of the elderly." This made her question whether she had been too harsh in her judgment. Could she be too selfish by allowing her in-laws to endure such suffering? She realized that despite all the pain of the past, she could not continue to carry the wounds in her heart. Though she didn't want to let go, she understood that clinging to resentment would only hinder her progress. He was gone, and the past couldn't be changed. She no longer wanted to live under the shadow of resentment. This year's Tet festival, she decided, would be different. She would take her daughter to visit her in-laws. While the past could never be forgotten, she wanted to give her in-laws a complete tit to bring a little warmth into their cold home. She didn't want to remain shackled by bitterness. Instead, she wanted to show her daughter that sometimes forgiveness is the key to freeing oneself. She realized that not everything in life revolves around money. Some people believe that if they have money, they have everything. But for the elderly, what they need most isn't wealth. It's understanding, affection, and a life free from loneliness. The elderly fear loneliness above all. That's why many of them save money, hoping it will provide them with security when no one else is around. It's money to buy a bowl of soup, to purchase medicine when they're sick, or simply to be part of a social gathering. That's where true happiness lies. A fulfilling old age doesn't require mountains of wealth, but emotional fulfillment. The elderly who live in happy homes surrounded by their children and grandchildren, enjoying simple moments with friends over tea, are the ones who experience the most valuable blessings in life. The laughter of children, the warmth of shared conversations. This is the real joy and warmth of living. In old age, many people feel burdened by complicated family dynamics. Property disputes, in-laws who don't listen, and some who get caught up in unhealthy habits create constant worry for the elderly. The anxiety of seeing children and grandchildren unhappy robs them of the peace they seek in their later years. Even with many children, the elderly often live in loneliness when their children are far away or living abroad, unable to care for them. The greatest wish of the elderly is to be surrounded by the love of their family in their later years. Even if they don't live together, they want to be close enough to support one another, especially in times of need. The elderly long for the reassurance that when hardship comes, there will be someone by their side and they won't be left to face it alone. They also wish to preserve their ancestors' graves so that future generations remember their roots and honor the family legacy. However, there's a different kind of loneliness for those who have money but lack the love and care of family. Despite having all the material comforts, the absence of love and family connection creates a profound sadness, a sadness that cannot be soothed by money. This is the loneliness of the soul, not a lack of material things, but the absence of meaningful relationships. The mistakes of the past can't be undone. Looking back, the only thing that remains is a deep sense of regret. After all the ups and downs of life, old age becomes a time for reflection on what has been lived, what has been left undone, and what could have been done differently. Happiness isn't something that can be bought with money. It's found in emotional connection, in the care of loved ones. A person who has wealth but lacks comfort and love can never truly experience happiness. Through these stories, I hope each of us can recognize the true value of life as we grow older. Time waits for no one, and it's through life's simple moments, the ones we often overlook, that we learn the most. Only by overcoming hardships and challenges do we come to understand that the small, simple moments of everyday life hold the deepest lessons. The first lesson: the rooster crows when the sun rises. But it's not the rooster's crowing that makes the day begin. The decision is ours whether we wake up to start the day. If we don't wake up, we miss the day and we miss a new opportunity. Life is a series of waking up each morning, and every time we wake up is a chance to start over. So when the new day arrives, don't miss the opportunity. Go out and enjoy every moment. For the beauty of nature and the freshness of the morning are gifts life gives us. Each new day is a blank page waiting for us to fill it with our actions, our choices, and our perspective. The key to a fulfilling life is not merely existing through the days, but embracing them with purpose. Every time we open our eyes in the morning, we are gifted with the potential for a fresh start. Don't waste these moments. Take in the sunrise, breathe in the air, and live intentionally. Life moves quickly, and each morning is a reminder that time is precious, and we must seize it while we can. The second lesson. A man buys a basket of pears and fears they will spoil, so he eats the overly ripe ones first. In the end, the entire basket has no good pears left. The lesson here is that if we focus only on the negative and the worries in life, our lives will always be filled with sadness and disappointment. Let go of unnecessary worries and focus on being positive and optimistic. Every day is an opportunity to live better and enjoy life more. Appreciate every moment and don't let life pass by in regret. Life often feels overwhelming when we're consumed with what could go wrong. Just like the man eating the overripe pears first, we can sometimes focus too much on what's bad and miss out on what's good. Instead of worrying about potential problems, we should cherish what we have and embrace the opportunities before us. Life is not without its difficulties, but a positive outlook allows us to see beyond them, making the good times even more rewarding. Let go of unnecessary worries and allow space for joy, hope, and gratitude to flourish. The third lesson, a parrot and a crow meet and exchange their desires for life. The parrot living in a cage wishes for freedom like the crow. The crow admires the parrot's easy life. They decide to swap places, but after the swap, the crow is no longer loved by the owner and dies from loneliness, while the parrot cannot survive in the wild and eventually dies from hunger. The lesson from this story is that sometimes we dream of having what others have, but fail to realize that our own lives are already valuable. The life of another person may not be the best choice for us, and sometimes ease comes at a price. Often we envy what others have, thinking that their lives are easier or better than ours. But we fail to recognize that their circumstances come with their struggles and sacrifices. The parrot and the crow each thought they wanted the other's life, but they learned too late that every life has its value. Instead of comparing ourselves to others, we should appreciate our journey, our path, and the unique opportunities that come with it. Our lives are precious, and there's no need to trade them for someone else's version of success. The fourth lesson, a drop of ink falls into a cup of water, turning the water black and undrinkable. But if the ink falls into the sea remains unchanged, still blue. This shows the difference in the capacity of two things to accept change. The small cup of water with limited space is easily changed, while the vast sea with infinite space remains unaffected. The lesson here is that tolerance and humility are noble qualities of human beings. The more we tolerate others, the more expansive and stable our hearts will be. Humility, being able to bow down and being able to acknowledge ourselves helps us mature. Combining both qualities allows us to maintain dignity and inner peace in our lives. If we live with tolerance and humility, our souls will become as vast as the sea. As we navigate life, we are often faced with challenges and difficulties brought on by others. If we react impulsively or harshly, we become like the small cup of water, easily influenced by external circumstances. But if we can cultivate tolerance and humility, we become like the vast sea, unaffected by small disturbances. Our hearts grow bigger, our minds more expansive, and we can embrace life's changes with grace. Tolerance and humility aren't signs of weakness, but of strength and maturity, helping us maintain inner peace and understanding even in difficult times. The fifth lesson, perfume contains 95% water, but it's the 5% fragrance that makes the difference. Similarly, people have many common traits, but it's the 5% difference, our personalities, thoughts, and self-cultivation that defines our unique value. This difference determines the happiness and pain we experience in life. The lesson here is that difference is what creates individual value. Not everyone is born with a unique fragrance, but we must go through a process of self-improvement to reach it. Therefore, we must persist in learning and developing ourselves to achieve better things in life. What sets us apart in life isn't the material things we accumulate or the basic traits we share with others. It's the unique qualities we cultivate within ourselves. Just like the small amount of fragrance that defines a perfume, it's the small personal attributes, our integrity, wisdom, and kindness that truly define our worth. Life isn't just about what we're born with. It's about how we develop and improve ourselves. Personal growth and self-cultivation are the keys to unlocking our potential and finding fulfillment. Through continuous learning and self-reflection, we build the life we deserve. The sixth lesson, a story tells of a father and son leading a donkey on a walk. First, people criticize them for not riding the donkey. Then, when the son rides it, people criticize him for being unfaithful. Finally, when the father rides it, people accuse him of being cruel. In the end, the father and son both ride the donkey, but people criticize them for being cruel to the animal. Ultimately, the father and son decide to carry the donkey home. The lesson here is that no matter what we do, people will always find fault with us. What matters is that we make decisions based on our judgment, and sometimes it's okay to let go of the opinions of others. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 5 below to let me know that you are still here with me. In life, no matter how much effort we put into making the right choices, there will always be someone who criticizes us. Power. But when we look back, we realize that these things cannot accompany us in the end. Life can be a race for money, but we cannot buy back the time lost or the health gone. Money can buy many things, but not the most valuable things time has taken. In our pursuit of wealth, status, or success, we may find ourselves neglecting the things that truly matter: time, health, and relationships. Like the fox, we often satisfy immediate desires without considering the long-term consequences. But as time passes, we realize that the things we chase after can't bring true fulfillment. The most valuable things in life, love, time with family, health, cannot be bought with money. We must learn to balance our pursuits with what truly nourishes our soul. The eighth lesson. In a class, the teacher writes on the board, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. For plus 4 is equal to 8, 8 plus 8 is equal to 16, and 9 plus 9 is equal to 20 inches. Parents criticize the last calculation as wrong, but ignore the fact that the first 3 were correct. The teacher says, why is everyone focusing on the one mistake? Why didn't you notice the correct answers first? This illustrates that in life and relationships, we should focus on the positive things people do, not just their mistakes. The lesson here is that people often overlook the good and focus on small flaws. A person can do hundreds of good things, but one mistake can overshadow all their previous good deeds. This is an important principle for maintaining strong relationships, whether in friendships or family. In relationships, it's easy to focus on the small mistakes or flaws of others, but we often overlook the countless good deeds they've done. Just like the teacher pointed out, we should focus on what's right, not just what's wrong. Life is too short to dwell on the negative. Instead, we should celebrate the good, encourage growth, and offer forgiveness. Acknowledging the positive qualities in others strengthens bonds and helps build more harmonious relationships. By focusing on the good, we foster love, trust, and understanding in our lives. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-reflection and learning. As we wrap up today's video, I'd love to know what lesson resonated with you the most. What is one thing you've learned so far that you plan to bring into your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I believe that by sharing and learning from each other, we can all grow and make life more meaningful. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to share more with you. See you in the next video.